Hey there YouTube, welcome back to a new Black Powder update, and Happy New Year to everyone out there. This is I think this counts as my first video of the new year. Now these chaps did take me a little bit longer than average, but I did have about 3 days where I didn't actually do any painting at all. Mainly because of the miserable weather. It's been absolutely tipping it down for most of the last couple of weeks here in Southampton, and the daylight has been extremely low. You know, you're talking about sort of 3 o'clock-ish, starting to get dark, and if I'm at a stage where I'm not doing anything, where I'm doing sort of detail work, then I tend to just pack it up, because I find that for doing like fine detail work, it's better to do it in natural daylight. Although obviously this lamp that I've got here that's lighting up the figures today, because although it's actually quite a nice blue sky, it's still actually quite shady actually in this particular room, because I'm kind of right in front of the window, so I'm getting that sort of there's a bit of condensation on the window, and the sun hasn't actually fully transferred from the back of the house across to the front of the house yet, so there's still a little bit of shade. So that's why I've got the extra lighting on, and hopefully it's okay for you guys. No, right, blabbled enough. Let's get on and show you the main reason for this video, which is my next battalion for the 2nd Brigade of the 3rd Netherlands, and these guys are the 10th Dutch Militia. Let's go in and give you a little bit of a zoom in. I'll just temporarily move the camera a little bit as well. Hold on. I had this all worked out like literally seconds before I started the video. Here we go. Okay, so like I said, the 10th Dutch Militia, and they numbered 632 men, and they were commanded by a Lieutenant Colonel G.F. Brigade. Figures wise, these guys are actually made up of an elite box, my battalion of elite militia that I'd got when I was doing the 2nd Netherlands, and I actually purchased like 3 packs, I think, 3 individual figure packs of 4 figures each, which actually worked out to be the exactly the right number of troops I needed to make these guys into a battalion. Now obviously I wasn't using elite command, so command is made up of Perry's and front rank, and you could probably work out which one's which, but basically the drummer and the officer, the mounted colonel, are front rank, and the the secondary officer and the standard bearer are Perry's, and the rest of them are elite. And as you can see, the elite militia are sort of advancing with their muskets. Now I've got to say, as far as sort of advancing troops go, these guys are actually quite friendly. Their muskets don't stick out too much, although I did make sure that the 2 units of flankers that do actually have quite sticky out bayonets in comparison to the middle, the stands in front, did actually slot in. So when I stuck these guys to the bases, I made sure that the guys on the bases in front weren't actually hindered by their musket points, or bayonet points rather. So let's get in and give you a closer look at them then. So let's start off with the flankers actually. Now the cool thing about this particular the particular elite, sort of light out a little bit as well. Hold on. There we go. These guys from elite is that within their sort of 3 or 4 position troops that you actually get, some of them have got French backpacks, and some of them have got the British style backpack in the sort of brown leather. Now what I did with these guys was that I actually made all the flankers and sort of senior troops within the battalion actually having like the French backpacks. That's because the reason being that the flankers and sort of NCOs, etc., are likely to be the more veteran troops within a militia battalion. Now, obviously, I think the age of the militia guys could go up to about, I think it's like 56 or something like that. So within that sort of, I think I can't remember the exact percentage of sort of like guys above 40 that they had, but it's not a massive percentage. So you'd think that the guys that are the veterans would be made into the flankers, and obviously like the NCOs and stuff. So they actually have retained their sort of French backpacks, where the newer recruits, the perhaps younger recruits, and of course this is actually the 10th Dutch militia. So you know they might have exhausted their allotment of sort of French style backpacks, and started dishing out the British ones, which of course were brown leather rather than black leather. Although it wouldn't surprise me if there were some black leather ones around, because the British did supply them. Now I'm not sure if the Dutch actually made British equipment under licence during that period. I know that they actually made some brown besses during that during this period. So that's why you sometimes find a sort of a mixture of muskets, because they've either been given ones from the British, or, like I say, the Dutch actually did produce some brown breasts or India pattern muskets themselves. And now these guys are all armed with the India pattern muskets, so that's another quite cool thing. Front rank like to give their guys the French muskets. And I think Perry's give them India muskets as well, India pattern muskets. So let's move on. So that was one of the flanker battalions, or flanker units, or companies. Here we have the fourth company. These guys are have a corporal on their base. Bog standard troops, as you can see. I mean, in fact, I think all these guys are actually in the same position, apart from perhaps one. And you can see what I mean about the sort of fairly forgiving sort of advanced position, because I seem to remember that some of the front rank advancing troops have their muskets straight out, and that they always cause problems for matching up bases standing in front of them. These guys with their muskets up at a sort of you know, what's that, like maybe a sort of 45-50 degrees sort of stance, are pretty good for being able to slot in quite easily to the bases in front. So that is the 4th company. Then we have the 2nd company of flankers. Now obviously these guys don't have the puffs. I think front rank, I think they do actually, when you buy a battalion box, you do actually get some actual specific flanker figures. But like Perry's, the Perry's that actually don't do them, I used the particular style that I found where if they didn't have puffs, they had orange epaulets on their jackets, and of course they always seem to have either some form of orange stripe on their pom-poms to differentiate them from the normal troops. Now I did actually find out that militia units also used different coloured parts of pom-poms too, so they're not necessarily all white like the ones that I've actually done on mine. But again, I think I sort of decided that it's a sort of personal preference. I just keep the flankers only having the markings on their plumes, just so that you can kind of identify them as flankers, and not start mixing them up along with the normal infantry. So that is the second company of flankers, and on to let's go for the musician this time round. So this is the musician stand. It's got a front rank drummer. I did try to find a Perry's one, but the only one I had left was just sort of standing, and he looked a bit odd in a sort of stand of advancing troops. So I decided to, you know, once again another front rank drummer. I mean, there's nothing wrong with them, but I have painted like 4 of them in a row because I mean, my last 4 battalions, bar this one, have been front rank. But as you can see, we have the red and black design for the militia drum, and other than that, bog standard militia uniform. And here you can see, I forgot, actually you would have seen it on the 4th company as well, that these guys have got some of the brown British style backpacks mixed in, with only the drummer and the sergeant there. There's another sergeant, and actually no, it's a lance corporal with a white triangle, the white chevron. In this stand, I decided to put a few more NCOs into this particular battalion. So that is the musician stand. Then we have the actual NCO stand. So again, you can see that I tried to choose a different figure from the rest of the base to be the sergeant, and he has his silver chevron for sergeant. And other than that, he's just basically a normal trooper. But of course, he has actually got his French backpack, where the other guys have got the brown style British backpack. So that is the NCO stand. And then finally the command stand. Now these guys are obviously done in the mounted style, with the mounted colonel and the 2 on foot command. We have a this chap here, the secondary officer. He's in a sort of a dress frock jacket. So I had to make a chevron for a sort of a shoulder epaulette for him, to make him the sort of junior officer. And then we have the a normal sort of Perry's standard bearer, just spare from my first Perry's unit that I brought originally when I first started the project. And he is holding his militia flag, the original version, with the wreath, which of course I'm using for the 3rd. And he actually had like an extended, I've actually extended his flagpole a little bit. Basically when I first put it in, it was basically a little bit too tall for the really useful box that they're stored in. So I actually I thought it was like a little bit too short if it had just ended in his hand, so I decided to actually extend it below his hand, so it looks like the pole's slightly longer than it actually is, and obviously it's just super glued onto the bottom of his hand. But other than that, it's basically the same sort of style flagpole that I normally use, and the like I say, the rather cool militia flag, which of course is from Elite Miniatures. So that's that. Then we have of course the mounted colonel. Now originally I was going to use a Elite, but I've basically found that I had a front rank militia colonel available. So I thought, well, rather than do another Elite officer, because I basically put an Elite officer into my last battalion, I'll change it up and use the front rank one this time, and save the Elite ones for the 1st Brigade, which of course have 4 battalions of militia within them. So basically put him on a sort of a bog standard bay horse with black markings. So this particular horse has got no white patches, just black, and of course the standard officer's uniform for the colonel. And this particular officer here, I forgot to mention that he actually began life as a standard bearer, and I actually repositioned his arm and sort of closed his fist, where he'd normally be holding the flag, and now he is kind of standing, which is a little bit off-putting, but because he's kind of in the background, you don't really notice. But I think he's just a really nice sort of general figure, and because you know, chances are he wouldn't get used as a standard bearer, because he's not really, you know, most of them are like marching or advancing. I wouldn't be able to get the chance to use him, so I thought, well, I might as well use him in this one, and I just did, you know, tried to sort of convert him as much as I can without going into sort of, I mean, it's barely converting really. It's just literally repositioning his arm and closing his fist. But I think it made a really cool officer figure in the end. But yeah, that's it. So that is the 10th Dutch Militia, and that actually completes all of the infantry now for the 2nd Brigade. So next up will be the artillery battery. Now I did actually, I have actually already got that out. Now I'm just going to quickly show you the figures for the artillery here. Now these are, I basically brought these separate from you know, like a normal sort of 4-figure pack from Elite, and they actually do like 2 versions of the same artillery crew pack, but one actually has an officer included. Now this is the actual officer figure, which I think is pretty cool for Elite. As you know, as much as I love Elite, it's their officer figures sometimes drop below par, either because they're sort of too lanky, or they're in a really bizarre position. But I think this guy is actually rather cool. Perhaps one of the best positioned Elite officers that I've come across. I think there were a couple in the French and the British packs that I really liked too. And then we have now this guy was originally carrying a sort of a crowbar to help move the cannon, but I decided to convert him into a different crew figure. And then of course you get the plunger guy and the match guy, and I think on one of them I slightly bent his arm down a little bit just to make him look like he's in a different position. And then you have the second crew pack, which comes with this chap as an alternate figure instead of the officer. So it's basically the same figures, but with that one extra figure. So I think that's a really quite cool idea. Yeah, it makes a nice sort of unique artillery crew, because sometimes you sort of get fed up of using the same sort of crews on guns, so it's a nice change to be able to have some different artillery figures. Gun wise, it's basically these guys are going to have, because they're for artillery, they're going to have the remainder of my Elite guns. So like I say, Elite guns are extremely chunky. I mean, you can see how chunky they are there. They're actually slightly bigger than all other manufacturers that I've used, but that's why I decided to use them for the foot artillery. And of course, these ones also have the howitzer included, because when you buy a sort of a artillery battalion style box, you actually get 4 guns, of which one is howitzer. So that's another really cool bonus about Elite artillery that I do really like. So that's they're going to be up next. Now I've obviously got the brigade commander to do. Now he is going to be this figure here. This is a front rank. I think he used to be a French general again, and I think he was a French general originally. And as you can see, he's perfect for a Dutch one, because he's got his light cavalry boots, and they're covered by his trousers, and also he has the single-breasted jacket. And I think just about the only thing that's missing is perhaps a plume, but they didn't always have plumes, so he's actually a really perfect figure for a Dutch a Dutch brigade commander, so he's going to be used for him. Now, whether I actually decide to paint them both at the same time, because generally artillery batteries only take me sort of 3 days-ish, and mounted guys normally only take me a couple of days, so it's possible that I could theoretically finish excuse me, finish them both in the sort of the week, but if I don't decide to, I mean, chances are I probably will try and do them together, because obviously there's points where you're sort of, the guns get done really quickly. They're generally done in less than a couple of hours, and then it's basically the crew, the crews, and then it's quite easy to actually paint up the brigade commander in between that, and it's only really the basing, I think, that might hold up me finishing the brigade command, because I do like to do you know, slightly better bases than normal troops. Okay, so that's the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll catch you all next time. So until then, bye bye.